Welcome in, everyone. We're continuing our local election education series here in cooperation with the Citizens for Milford. We're taking you through all of the different roles on this year's 2025 local election ballot to share some more information for folks to really understand what the roles and responsibilities are for all of these very important positions around town. And we're so pleased to be joined by Ed Bertorelli, who's been a member of the Board of Library Trustees. Ed, thank you so much for joining us.
Sure, of course. Thank you. And thanks for this project for educating people in the, the different offices. People sometimes, especially if they're new, if they're regular voters, I think they grasp some of it. But if they're new, they go, well, what is a library trustee? What is a trustee? What does even a trustee mean for any of these particular things? So.
And I think, Ed, that's a really perfect place for us to start. So you obviously have a lot of experience as a library trustee.
Yeah.
Kind of go through maybe some of that language. What is a trustee, and what are sort of what's a snapshot of what the Board of Library Trustees does?
Well, basically, a trustee is, in a way, that's exactly what it is. It's a position of trust. That one of your roles is to basically hire a director, and then she or he would run the day-to-day activity of the library. Trustees are very important in enacting policies, in representing the library, particularly in Milford, before the Finance Committee, to advocate for our library budget. Obviously, employees are, in a sense, prohibited from doing that, but trustees are in a unique position. So they can go in and advocate for the library, make the points, and craft the budget as it is needed to be altered over time. So I've been doing this almost 40 years. At the local level, the first 7 years I was on the Milford Board, and then Governor Weld appointed me to the State Board of Library Commissioners, and I served there for 13, but that meant that I had to give up the Milford Board because basically the State Board managed a lot of the funding that the Milford Library got.
When you look at, in terms of the Milford Board of Library Trustees in particular, kind of walk us through maybe the typical meeting schedule for the Board of Library Trustees. What are those sort of core responsibilities that the Milford Board takes care of?
It doesn't require a great deal of work, but it does require that you study some issues in depth. We meet monthly at the library, and we have a chairman, a vice chairman, a secretary, and then the rest of the board. So there's 6 members, which is interesting. The law, state law, it's in multiples of 3. So that's how we're governed. Some are 9, some are bigger. In a municipality like Milford, with our system of government, we're elected. Some towns with a town manager type system, the town manager might appoint people. And in a city, the mayor would appoint the trustees. And then they would serve and they would appoint the library director. So here, basically, each monthly meeting, we'd go through the budget, how expenditures are looking, are there any areas of concern where, say, overages, say it's a cold winter or electric is higher or whatever. We carefully follow that. And then we basically go through the daily business, the reports of the different staff members. So there'll be, for example, there's the young adult librarian who handles the children's room and the young adult room, the reference desk, which is obviously, literally what it is, and the circulation desk. Then we have something you don't see very much because it's downstairs. The units would be the technical services part.
So again, Ed, in terms of the library trustees, are there any commitments or are there any qualifications for the trustees that may be unexpected for someone running for that position for the first time?
No, I wouldn't think so. But it's probably a responsibility to sort of see what the textbook definitions of what trustees should do, and things to avoid. For example, the trustees don't run the library director does. When trustees get into that personnel, and that's a slippery slope, because if there are concerns that relate to the director, if there are problems in staffing or whatever, it's the director's responsibility to come forward and mention them. But that also indicates that, say, the chairman and the vice chairman of the board would be like the contact people between the library director and whatever, because being the chairman is a different, greater time commitment, because different facts come up, and the director and the chairman would converse about different, if there are problems or good things or bad things or whatever.
What would you say is the most rewarding aspect to be part of the library trustees?
Oh, well, I think as I just said, some of the programs that we're interviewing, we're all in Milford, no matter how long our people were here, children, grandchildren, great-grandchildren of immigrants. And so it's our challenge, I think, to adapt to each wave as people come in, and also provide, for that group, but also provide great services for senior citizens who are heavy users of the library. Part of it is to keep up with the technology, because as late as 1995, that's when we still had the card catalog. And that's really not that long ago, in a sense, 20 years. But look at how revolutionary things have changed. I mean, it's amazing to think. Yep.
It really is.
Yep.
Well, Ed, I appreciate you taking the time to join us. I would say my final big picture question for you, as we look at the broader scope of the local election season, in your own words, why do you feel it's important for folks to step forward and be part of local government here in Milford?
Oh, well, that's a challenging one, because I think we found, not only in Milford, but in towns all over the state, the amount of participation is lower and lower. I serve on several boards, the Housing Authority and the Geriatric Authority, and as a 70-plus-year-old person, you'd really want younger people to come forward as well with a different perspective. You try and have your own perspective and open to things, but again, it's good to have the challenge, but we're finding more and more that people don't want to be involved in things, whether it's the political climate or the fact that there's time constraints with family, or, I mean, I've tried to recruit certain people to run for trustee, and say if they're a school teacher or involved in a thing that people are worried about after-hours commitment. It was encouraging to see so many young people at the town meeting last night who are learning the ropes. And it can be rough if you're going in. I mean, I first got elected in 1988, and you come in and you watch, and so it's as you saw last night with some of the memorials they gave to a lot of people. Some people have been 40 and 50-year town meeting members, and that's the sort of the bedrock of the Milford volunteerist thing, which is any town needs that, and without that, you become a suburban, what do you call a bedroom suburb, where people work and leave, come back, not involved in the community. And that isn't helpful, especially with the challenges we're facing. You challenge it by, I think, being active. And part of that is, I think, having a good library, having a good school system, all the support groups. And, for example, the senior center, So they all play a role, I think, in mesh as well. And so I think, as trustees, we can be proud of the library. We've maintained it, I think, in a pristine way. I've haunted the trustees for years. We've got to do our list. We have original things here from when the library was built in the 80s. We've got to do our checklist to see if there's things we need to replace now, because we know in the future, with the new high school coming online, funds may be tighter than they were now. My goal and my message to people is to get involved, try and allocate some time to do something, and the library board is a perfect board to do that, because its commitment is balanced. It isn't an excessive commitment. It's not a minimal commitment, but I think it's a very rewarding commitment, because you can see in a building of that size the effect of the things you do.
Great messaging, great insight on a really important board here in Milford with the Board of Library Trustees. So we certainly hope that this was helpful information to folks out there who are interested in learning more. And again, just listening to Ed himself, important to get involved in this community. There's clearly a lot of important issues in all aspects of this community. So we certainly hope that this series helps get people more educated and more involved in the process here in town. Ed Bertorelli, we really appreciate you taking the time to join us. Thank you so much.
And thanks, Tip, for the service. It's very helpful. Thank you.